If you were born in the last 50 years, the world you've known is already gone. For decades, the US called the shots. It set the prices, controlled the markets, and dictated global rules. But the moment we're in right now, it marks the end of that dominance. And what comes next will decide everything, from what's in your bank account to who holds the real power. This isn't a distant prophecy. It's happening right now. Markets tremble, alliances shift, and in the chaos, one question looms. Has the American empire already lost and we just don't know it yet? This isn't just about economics or military might. This is a war for the future. One wields the dollar, the strongest military the world has ever seen, and a cultural empire that stretches from Hollywood to Wall Street. The other moves in silence, stacking steel, tech, and influence, rewriting the rules of dominance with every deal, every factory, every new alliance. The old king still sits on the throne, but for how long? The real question isn't who's stronger today, it's who will own tomorrow. And if history has taught us anything, it's that no empire stays on top forever. So how did China go from struggling to survive to standing at America's doorstep, ready to challenge the throne? Let's find out. Way back in the early 1900s, China wasn't the strong place it is now. It was like a giant who couldn't stand up. People from faraway lands like Britain and Japan came with big ships and guns. They took over parts of China, bossing everyone around. Imagine someone walking into your home, taking your stuff, and telling you what to do. That's how it felt. The rulers of China back then, called the Qing dynasty, were like a tired old king. In 1911, they fell apart and everything broke into pieces. After that, there was no one big leader. Instead, tough guys called warlords took over different parts of the land. They fought each other like angry dogs over a bone, and the normal people, the farmers, the workers, suffered. They grew food in tiny fields, but there wasn't enough. Most couldn't read or write because schools were only for rich folks. If you got sick, good luck. There were no doctors or medicines for most people. The roads, just dirt paths that turned to mud when it rained. It was a mess, a land with no order. Then in 1937, things got worse. A country called Japan attacked. This was part of a huge fight on Earth called World War II. Japan's soldiers marched in, bombed cities, and killed millions. Houses turned to dust, families ran away, and hunger was everywhere. By the 1940s, China was split even more. Two groups were fighting to take charge. One called the Nationalists, led by a man named Chiang Kai-shek, and the other called the Communists, led by Mao Zedong. It was a war inside a war, blood, tears, and broken dreams all around. Now listen close. This is where the story turns. In 1949, something huge happened. After years of fighting, the Communists won. On October 1st, Mao Zedong stood in a big square in a city called Beijing and said, "This is the People's Republic of China." The nationalists ran off to a small island called Taiwan, and Mao's team took over the whole mainland. It was like hitting a reset button on a game. Why was this such a big deal? Let me explain it. Before 1949, China was like a puzzle with all the pieces scattered. No one could put it back together. The people were poor, the land was weak, and outsiders kept kicking it around. But Mao had a plan. He wanted China to stand tall, to be one strong unit, not a broken mess. He and his group, the Communist Party, made some big moves. They told the foreign bosses, "Get out!" No more outsiders ruling them. They took land from rich people who had too much and gave it to the farmers who had nothing. It was like flipping the table. Everything changed. This new government was tough. It was like one strong hand holding the whole country together. They said, "We're in charge now, and we're going to build something new." That's where the real journey starts. From 1949, China began to grow in ways it never had before. Let's see how. After 1949, China started fixing itself step by step. First, the economy, the way people make and share things. The government told farmers, work together, grow more food. They gave them tools and plans. They also built factories, big buildings where people made stuff like steel and clothes. But it wasn't easy. In 1958, Mao tried a big idea called the Great Leap Forward. He wanted to make China super strong, super fast, It went wrong, too much push, not enough food, and millions died of hunger. It was a hard lesson, but they kept going, slowly building more factories. Education came next. Before, most people couldn't read. 80% were in the dark. Mao said, everyone should learn. So they built schools, even in small villages. Kids who never held a book started going to class. It wasn't perfect. Teachers were few, but it was a start. Healthcare got a boost too. In the 1950s, they trained people called barefoot doctors, simple folks who learned basic medicine. They went to far-off places, giving shots and pills. People started living a bit longer. Life went from 35 years to more. Infrastructure, things like roads and bridges, began too. They laid new train tracks and built dams to make electricity. It was slow, but lights started glowing in homes. Governance changed big time. No more warlords fighting. The Communist Party was the only boss now. They made rules, kept order. But there were bumps. In the 1960s, something called the Cultural Revolution happened. Mao got mad at old ways, and people trashed schools and books. It was chaos for a while, but the party held on. Fast forward to 1978. A new leader, Deng Xiaoping, came in. He looked at 1949's foundation and said, let's make it bigger. He opened China to the world. The economy exploded. Cities like Shenzhen went from tiny fishing spots to huge places full of factories. They made toys, clothes, everything. Sent it all over Earth. Money poured in and people got richer. Millions left poverty behind. China isn't just rising anymore, it's towering. The economy? A staggering $18 trillion machine, powering everything from electric cars to the smartphones in your pocket. Sure, not everything's perfect. Some overambitious projects turned to dust and growth slowed down. But even at this speed, China is still miles ahead of most. Nearly universal literacy, 97% can read, and over 60% of young minds are pushing through college, fueling a new wave of tech innovation. Healthcare? The average Chinese citizen now lives to 78 thanks to nationwide insurance. That's the foundation. An economic powerhouse, a tech-driven workforce, and a society built for efficiency. But here's the real question. Is all this enough to challenge the USA's global grip? Now that we understand China's base, it's time to see how it plans to rewrite the rules of the superpower game. Buckle up, because the real battle is just beginning.